Item number SCP-303. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures.
As SCP-303 has not yet been known to travel beyond the boundaries of Site, the entire site is currently considered SCP-303's containment area. All rooms in Site are to be altered where possible so as to have two entrances separated by a distance of 10 meters or line of sight. Personnel are to be distributed evenly throughout the facility with available radio or intercom contact so that encounters may be resolved quickly. Personnel who witness SCP-303 are to be submitted for immediate psychiatric evaluation. All SCP objects housed at Site since before June 4, 2010 are to be transferred to Site-B one at a time. Each SCP object will be transferred again to Site-A once it can be verified that SCP-303 has not migrated from the site with it. Once SCP-303 either migrates to Site-B or remains present at Site, once all SCPs in question have been transferred, containment procedures will be updated as appropriate.
Description:
Witnesses describe SCP-303 as a nude, sexless, emaciated humanoid figure with reddish-brown skin. Instead of normal facial features, its head is dominated by an extremely large mouth, which bears a set of oversized human teeth. It continuously vocalizes a wheezing noise, loud enough to be heard from the other side of most solid doors. All individuals who have had encounters with SCP-303 are capable of describing it in full, including individuals who have not actually physically seen any part of it. SCP-303 will periodically materialize beyond any closed door, hatch, or other entryway barrier opposite a sentient observer, chosen by unknown means. The SCP will then remain behind the door for an indeterminate amount of time. Any individual attempting to open the door or barrier experiences intense, paralyzing fear that lasts until SCP-303 dematerializes, either on its own or to avoid being directly seen by another observer. The source of this fear is not entirely clear, but it appears to be similar in nature to arachnophobia and ophidiophobia, originating on a preconscious genetic level.
Data expunged.
Analysis indicates that SCP-303 is not, in fact, purposely inducing fear in the affected individuals. It does not allow itself to come into direct visual contact with any observer, and has never allowed any one individual to view more than 10% of its full form. When the door or other entryway barrier is partially or completely transparent, SCP-303 will materialize in an orientation that leaves 10% or less of its body visible, or cause effects of fog or frost on the transparent surface to achieve the same effect. If SCP-303 is approached from a direction in which there is not a solid object or door breaking line of sight, it will dematerialize before direct visual contact is made. Any electronic or complex mechanical devices that SCP-303 encounters are always temporarily disabled. It has made no recorded attempt to physically or verbally engage any observer to date. How SCP-303 arrived at Site is not known at this time. Its first recorded appearance was on March 3, 2010. It's suspected that SCP-303 was inadvertently transferred along with or manifested by another SCP on Site. All SCPs are currently being re-examined accordingly.
Incident Log 303-A. Incident 303-1.
Agent was showering in her private quarters bathroom when she became aware of the presence of SCP-303 on the opposite side of the shower curtain. It was wheezing extremely loudly. Startled by the discovery, she accidentally struck the shower curtain, causing it to sway outward. The curtain partially wrapped around the SCP, revealing that it was less than 0.5 meters from the curtain, standing erect and facing the shower. Agent reports spending approximately the next 3 hours sobbing in the shower, quietly, as to not disturb SCP-303. Agent reported that the wheezing stopped very suddenly, at which point she became able to exit the shower.
Incident 303-3.
Agent encountered SCP-303 inside the site's second-floor break room. He was attempting to obtain coffee creamer from the counter cabinet when he heard loud wheezing emanating from the cabinet and was overtaken by overwhelming fear. Agent later reported that SCP-303 was huddled in the cabinet in the fetal position. He claimed to be certain of the information, despite not being able to open the cabinet door. Later, when the cabinet was examined, exactly 1 container of powdered coffee creamer was missing. Note: this is the first recorded instance of SCP-303 removing an object from the scene.
Incident 303-6.
Doctor was discovered dead from dehydration in a second-floor storage room. It's estimated that Doctor spent up to 5 days in the storage room before being discovered. A small 4-meter by 4-meter decompression chamber separated the storage room from the adjoining hallway. SCP-303 occupied the chamber for the duration of Dr. isolation in the storage room, disallowing entry from either direction and making it impossible for them to leave.
Test log 303-A.
A team consisting of Doctor, researcher, 4 security personnel, and 4 D-Class personnel were assigned to be dispatched to any reported incident of SCP-303's materialization in order to immediately perform on-site testing. These logs take place at the door to room from the first-floor hallway. SCP-303 was reported to be within room
Test 303-1.
1 male D-Class personnel, D-303-1, was ordered to open the door and threatened that he would be transferred to SCP duty for non-compliance. He refused, citing extreme fear.
Test 303-2.
1 male D-Class personnel, D-303-1, was ordered to open the door and threatened that he would be terminated on the spot for non-compliance. He refused, claiming that if he were to do so, that SCP-303 would
Data expunged.
He was terminated on the spot.
Test 303-3.
1 female D-Class personnel, D-303-2, that witnessed the termination of D-303-1, was ordered to open the door once again and threatened that she would be terminated on the spot for non-compliance. She refused, claiming that if she opened the door, that SCP-303 would
Data expunged.
Researcher was visibly shaken by this claim. D-303-2 was not terminated.
Test 303-4.
1 female D-Class personnel, D-303-2, was ordered to open the door. 1 male D-Class personnel, D-303-3, was given 1 combat knife by security personnel and ordered to
Data expunged.
until D-303-2 opened the door. After 2 hours of
Data expunged.
D-303-2 died from blood loss. She made no attempt to open the door during this time.
Addendum. May 1st, 2010.
SCP-303 appears to have claimed the second-floor storage room as its own. It has so far disallowed any personnel entry into the room since April 5th, 2010. It leaves periodically to acquire Foundation property, which is then moved to the second-floor storage room. To date, the following list describes all non-classified items taken by SCP-303. 1 cryotube, 3 sets of standard Foundation surgical equipment, 2 D-Class research cadavers, 1 gasoline-powered generator, a variety of chemicals, including large quantities of tryptophan, phenylalanine, and tyrosine, among others. 1 container of powdered coffee creamer. In addition to this, a number of classified materials have been obtained by SCP-303. Staff are still attempting to determine what specific purposes SCP-303 may have for these materials. What is up, guys? Blue Spooky here, as always. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far to the end of the video. I'm bringing back a little bit of a golden oldie tonight. I bet most of you guys didn't know that when I first started this channel, I originally intended it to be mostly a purely SCP with some side true scary story action going on. But I haven't read an SCP in about 4 years. So I decided I'd get back into it and try it again, and I'm not gonna lie, I was actually pretty excited. I know this is a redux of an old video, but I was just going back through my playlist and watching the old videos, and I just realized that the old ones sound really terrible, so I thought I'd try to give it a little bit more justice. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually pretty proud of this one, even though this video is a little short. Let me know what you guys thought of the SCP reading, and what you think of SCP in general. I'm gonna start doing these more often, probably every day in between the true scary stories, or sometimes on the same day if it's a particularly short one. I'll probably do an SCP reading, just because they're extremely fun to do, especially with all the voice effects that I get to use and stuff, and all the different sound effects I get to throw in there. So let me know if you guys want me to read a particular SCP as well. Be sure to leave your criticism in the comments below. And leave your thoughts of the SCP as well. What you think it might be, what you think the explanation might be, just any theories you might have in general. As always, if you're curious about the music used in this video, it's in the description below. If you want to send me any messages, my social media is in there as well. And also a shout out to my friend Alan, whose social media will be in the description. He does a lot of horror art and he does commissions and stuff, so if you like his work, please be sure to check him out, as he's a good friend of mine and he's the artist that does all of the art for my channel. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day.